news, and we start by going live to Caracas, Venezuela, with our correspondent Belen de los Santos, who is there for all the activities being carried out ahead of the summit tomorrow, Saturday, of ALBA-TCP heads of states and government.
Hello, Luis. Exactly. We're here from Caracas. And as we were saying, this is a gathering of the Social Movement Council that is being reboosted, that is being reinstalled here. Let's recall what we were saying at our last contact, that ALBA was born with this idea of forming a mechanism that not only integrated the states at governmental level, but that also could coordinate just the different social movements, not only from Latin America itself, but also from the world, in that way becoming just a way in which different social movements, the peoples of around the world, even the peoples from the states in which the governments are not cooperating in this alliance that is the ALBA countries, those social movements may come together to coordinate different strategies. And that is the idea behind the Social Movement Council. And in this 20th anniversary from the ALBA-TCP, the idea is that this mechanism is being reboosted. Let's recall once again that in the initial idea, the Social Movement Council and the Presidential Council had the same importance. So the idea is that we are looking at a mechanism that is able to integrate both perspectives. We just heard from Secretary General of the ALBA-TCP, Jorge Arreaza, who was talking about the importance that the ALBA Summit becomes Summit of the Peoples. And the social movements have a very important participation in that regard. The idea that Jorge Arreaza was saying, that we should not be afraid of that virtuous tension that may arise between the social movement and the government, because that is what leads to social change. That is what brings to the real demands of the people. So that is what we are witnessing here today. And as I was saying, they're here representatives from social organizations, movements, research institutes, not only from the region, but also from around the world. And we are joined now by Atul Chandra. He comes from India and is from the Tricontinental Institute. So thank you for joining us and teleSUR English. And I would like to start by asking, what is the relevance, what is the importance of this installment of the Social Movement Council that is happening today? And why come here to participate at this regional mechanism?
Thanks to teleSUR first. For me, it's a very interesting sort of mechanism which they are talking about. I have seen people coming out of social movements, becoming leaders, becoming very successful politicians. And also, when I say this, I'm not saying that they have not set up, I would say, very inclusive social policies. But I never saw this is when they became, they were part of the movement, then they become very successful politicians. But I've never seen a council where the social movements directly come and interact with the government. And for example, when these social movements directly come and talk, they are very well, if you look at it, they are the voices of the people on the ground. They are the voices of the larger masses and transcending boundaries. It's not only something which is, let's say, something of Venezuela, but something which is transcending boundaries in Latin America. And I think that's very, very interesting. That's what I think this experiment I would really like to see in our part of the world, where people from the ground are part of that, I would say, mechanism, the democratic setup, where they are able to express their concerns with regard to anything, be it environment, be it labor movement, be it women movement, be it which affects their day-to-day life, the health, education, and they are able to formulate policies directly by talking, by discussion, by interventions with the government. And I think this makes it very special. This experiment I have never seen. I've never heard about it before. But this is something which, for me, it's very interesting, where there is a space directly for the movements to be part of one of the part of the government, where they are able to directly bring to the table their concerns. And I think that's interesting. I mean, we see in our part of the world, all the organizations, they have to come up with protest, with their movements, and then a delegation goes, and then they raise their demands. That's how we function. But have you ever thought where They are already part of it in the state machinery, in the government machinery, where they are heard not only when they are protesting, but also when the they say that they formulate policies for the people, but they have to literally hear the people who are on the ground, people who are representing those large masses, I would say.
Yes, and that was something of what we were talking about when discussing the importance of the ALBA mechanism and the 20 years and the idea of what comes now, right? That idea of being able to think up a mechanism that does not shy away from that tension between government or state entities and the social movements, but that quite the contrary tries to build mechanisms in which they can have direct action. Also, I wanted to ask you, one of the main things that the speakers have been saying, social leaders from all over the world, was the importance of gathering around to really having a comprehensive understanding of the geopolitical scenario that is here, that the geopolitical analysis is very important. It is key to then think of strategies, of mechanisms of cooperation, to see where the social movements need to be heading. What do you think in this regard?
No, absolutely, 100%. I mean, until and unless we know our subject, we have a nuanced understanding of the issues and what are those systematic challenges we are facing because of something, and that's not something only internal. It's I mean, geostrategic, geopolitics plays a huge role. And I think you're correct, absolutely correct. I mean, you have to factor that in. You have to read, learn about it. You have to understand the international politics, how it works, how imperialism works, how it affects. And for example, we know countries which which has been, I would say, have been very social, which believes in social principles, which believes in socialism, which believes in giving what people they deserve, but they have been forced. For example, we know countries in Asia, for example, Sri Lanka, we know countries in Pakistan, countries like Pakistan. For example, the IMF, the International Monetary Organizations, have been forcing them for structural changes. They are forcing them to cut the state budget. They are forcing them to take. I mean, how does the state then even deliver? For example, I'm talking about basic necessities of life in any civilized society. For example, education, for example, health. So I think these are I would say the context where if you cut the budgets and the state are unable to do what they promised or they want to do, it will take a huge toll. You are literally pushing your population at the brink of collapse. You are literally pushing them into poverty, into, I would say, problems, which then is going to erupt. I mean, there will be all sort of other issues which will be coming up.
Thank you so much, Atul, for joining us here in teleSUR English and let us have a better understanding of the importance, the relevance not only of the 20-year anniversary, but also of this mechanism that is the Social Movement Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Belen. Thank you.
Of course. So that was Atul Chandra from the Tricontinental Institute participating at the Social Movement Council in the ALBA-TCP framework. The ALBA-TCP is turning 20 years tomorrow, and these are the activities that are here in Caracas in the framework of that anniversary. And let's recall again that as the leaders just behind me are continuing to discuss possible ways of cooperation, this is not just leaders coming here to talk. These are very experienced movements from all over the world that bring here their specific territories and their specific action mechanisms that have to do with actions against climate change, that have to do with the production of food elements. They have been signaling, for example, the importance and the relevance of wide. So that is what is being discussed here, and as of thinking these strategies not only at a state level but also at a social movement level, and the ability of going back and forth from the governments that are leading this anti-imperialistic mechanism and the social movements on the territories, on the peoples around the world that are bringing in their power, their force in order to make these social changes happen. So that is what we have here. Back to you, Luis. We'll continue having more information throughout the day.
Thank you, Belen, for the latest information and for your guest for all his inputs here from the South.